Alright, here's my next project. It's called the Pacific Ace. Now this is a very well-known model among modelers. It actually came in a 20-inch, a 30-inch, and a 40-inch version. Alright. I'm going to do the 30-inch version because I've had great success with the P30s. Okay. You can get the 20 or 30-inch version from Penn Valley Hobby Center. So here I got the kit. Here it is. Okay. So I'll show you this and we'll get going on it. Now I've actually made this plane before. I made the 20-inch version about 25 years ago, and here it is actually sitting around. Okay. You can see back then I used a rubber band to hold the nose button on, but you don't need that with the gizmogeezer, and I make the block a little deeper these days. There's also a Flying Aces moss here. Okay, now the thing I liked about the Pacific Ace is that it just balanced perfectly. It didn't need any tail weight. You can see it still has some tree damage on it. That's why I stopped flying free flight, because I thought, you know, with the 20-inch I could keep it in the field, but I really spent most of the time in the trees, and that's when I started doing RC. I also have the Flying Aces moth. Now even with a wood prop I still had to add tail weight onto this. Okay, it's got too long a nose, so I think this is a nice part about the Pacific Ace. Now the only thing I'm concerned about is, number one, is I want to do the wing with Mylar, so I hope it's strong enough. We'll find out. The other problem is this has a really deep nose block here, and I want to use a 9.5-inch gizmo. So I think what I'm going to do is glue part of the nose block, probably about a 1/4 inch, onto the front to strengthen it, and then I'll just make a big hole and dig it out so that the gizmo can clear. Alright, I'll show you that once I get going. Now it's probably going to take me quite a while to do this. I really have quite a fleet here. Here I have 7 planes already packed up, and you know, I'm going to try to go flying in the next day or two. So I really have quite a lot. But, so we're going to go slow and enjoy the build. Alright, I thought I'd show you the Pacific Ace kit before I start hacking it up. Okay, so here's the printwood. Alright, and you know, again, it's a little heavier wood, but I'm not going to do anything this time. I mean, I need the strength. As I pointed out before, I cut out the parts oversized and I sand them down to the line. And then with printwood, it's very easy to sand off the print. Okay, just a few strokes, it'll come right off, and I do that before I assemble the parts. Here's all the wing tips and the rudder. Okay, I'm not going to use this fill for the front end because I'm going to use a little lighter balsa there. Alright, just to save weight. I'm not going to use the tissue, unfortunately. I'm going to do the Mylar. Comes with a nice 9.5-inch prop, but I'm going to use the gizmogeezer. Alright, it comes with rubber and some nice rubber wheels actually, but they're way too heavy, so I'm just going to use balsa wheels for that. Here's the windshield material, some nice strip wood. I'll go through that. Okay, I actually want really hard ones for the wing because I want that to be nice and stiff. And here's a nice nose block. Alright, so we'll see how we're going to do that. So I'm going to get working away here. Alright, so we're working on the cabin. Now one thing I like to do is I like to use a really hard piece here, and the problem is if you bend it up like that it might crack. Okay, if you use a medium piece and you hit the fence it breaks, so that's why I like to use the hard piece. So what I did is I soaked the front end in water for a little while, just had it sticking out of the sink, and then I bent it around a form like this, okay, just to give it the shape so there isn't a lot of pressure on the cabin there. Alright, the other thing I do is that I like to have the side that's going to be out facing up. Okay, the other side, you know, you get a little glue and stuff in there. I mean, it's fine. I think it actually reinforces it, but I'd rather make that the inside. So what I do is I build it on the plan. It was like this, and then what I do is I flip it over, okay, and then I build the other side on top. So that way I always have the side that faces outwards is up. All right. Alright, so you know, I cut and sanded some of the other parts here. We're going to get going on that. I still got some to cut out. So I think we'll get the cabin together and then we'll get going on the wing. Okay, so we're working on the wing, and here's one of the halves. Now you can see I don't put these spars in when I build it. I mean, you could do that if you want, but I like to, you know, I take a ruler and a razor blade and I notch it after it's done, like the bottom spar here. And then I'll put it in, okay? The other thing I'm going to change is some plans didn't show the top 16 square spar. Alright, they just showed the bottom spar, and the bottom spar was 3/32 by 1/4. But since I have the top spar, I think that's a little too big. So I'm going to use 3/32 by 3/16. All right, take the 16th off of the spar because it's in the top spar. Okay. Now one thing I do is when you make the other half, I always put the finished half right next to it to make sure that the leading and the trailing edges line up perfectly. I mean, that's important. All right. The other reason I do that is because the leading edge is at an angle, and you want to make sure that on the other half it has exactly the same angle so that it matches up perfectly. Now I've also pretty much been working on the body here, got a lot of that done. Now the only thing I'm going to do here is I noticed it gets a little tight in the back, okay, and they have the peg, you can see it there, pretty far back, but I want to be able to wind outside the plane, okay, my P30 half tube works in here. So what I did is I just stuck the hook on, and I just wanted to see how far back I can get and comfortably hook on. And so I'm going to move the rear peg forward about 3/4 of an inch. All right, just so I can get the half tube in there and wind outside. Okay, so we're going to get going on the stab and rudder, and I'm still debating about what to do with the front end. We'll get to work on that. All right, it's been a while, but we're pretty much ready to cover here. Now I pretty much built it straight out from the kit with just a couple little changes. One, as I said before, I put a 16 square top spar, and then the bottom spar I reduced from 1/4 to 3/16. Okay. Now the center section shows a 16 sheet, but what I did is I used the 32nd sheet on the top and on the bottom because that tends to get ripped and the equipment is under there. The only thing I'm worried about is I think if I did it again, I'd use the laminated tips. I think they're stronger, but we'll see how these hold up. All right, so that's the wing. Now on the cabin, as I said, I was debating about how to do the nose to get the gizmogeezer in there. It only goes in about 3/8. So what I ended up doing was attaching a part to the body here, and then I cut, and I'll show you that I made a little holder and everything. I had to actually drill it out so that the gizmo clears, and I'll show you that once I get the gizmo in there. All right, I made my removable landing gear as usual. I like the way that works. We got a little compartment for the equipment there and also for the pull. So I got the tail skid in there nice and solid, so we're pretty much ready to go there. Got the elevator done, that's pretty much ready to go. The rudder is also ready to go. Here's how I did it. Now what I used for the hinge material here is I got this 0.2 millimeter thick Mylar from Mike Woodhouse, and this works really nice on hinge material. Here, let me grab it and I'll show you. I've used it before on my Raven, okay, which is right here, and this is very thin, all right, so that's what I like about it. You can use it on very thin pieces of wood, okay, and of course I got the control horn in there as well, so this is pretty much ready to cover. All right, so I think I'm going to do the polyester span light on the cabin again, and then I'll just do Mylar and everything else. I think on the wing I'm going to use a 1/3 mil Mylar. So we'll get covering and we'll get painting and see how that goes. All right, so I covered the wing, stab, and rudder with a 1/4 mil Mylar. It didn't come out too bad, so we're just about ready for painting. And as I've said before, to do the Mylar I like to use the glue stick. Now they have a new blue one that recently came out, and I think it's pretty nice. I think it goes on a little bit smoother, even though it's hard to tell. Also stays tacky for quite a while, but eventually it dries up. And then usually what I do is I do, the bottom, for example, of the wing, and then I use an iron to just do the edges, okay? This way you can shrink down and smooth down the edges, all right? Get those going. Then I do the top, then I do the edges again, and then when I have the top and bottom covered, I like to shrink it. And I know some people use the iron, but I like to use the heat gun. You can move it in, just blast a little area. I can really get nice control over the heat, and you can get it shrunk and really nice and smooth. Here I also did the stab and the rudder, okay? Now one thing I don't think I've mentioned before that might happen is, when you're shrinking it, you'll notice that when you take the gun away, the wrinkles come back. And that's because the air is getting trapped in there, okay? So when it contracts, when it cools, the wrinkles come back. So what I do there is I just take a pin and I just make very small holes, like in the corners here, just so the air can escape. And then you'll see when you shrink it, it'll get tight and it'll stay tight, all right? The other thing is if you build the structure flat, it should tend to stay flat. Okay, but you know, sometimes it might warp a little bit if you're shrinking and all that stuff. So what you could do then is just put it on a flat surface and hit it with the heat gun a little bit. That'll flatten it out, okay? Sometimes what I'll do is I'll just weight down the tips a little bit with some magnets maybe, and then twist it lightly if I have to. But if you build it flat, it should tend to go back to staying flat, all right? But you can easily, you know, with the heat gun, put in any kind of trim you want as well. So now I'm gonna get painting, and we'll see how that goes. All right, so we got the wing done over here. Came out pretty nice. Now on the prop, what I had to do is I had to make a pretty big plug, and then what I did is I drilled the hole out so that the gizmo clears, okay? So this isn't a problem. All right, on the equipment, we got the windshield on here, and you can see this time I have the lemon receiver and the HKM 282 servo. Got plenty of room in there. I'm gonna put an altimeter in there as well. I made a little opening on the side for the antenna to come out, and also the switch. I'm using the switch again. On the bottom, what I do is I like to put a little opening in the back there. It just makes it a lot easier with the hook on the rubber. You can see what you're doing, okay? Still got to make the holes for the Kevlar pull. I'm going to do that now, and then we'll get it together, and we should be ready to go. All right, the Pacific Ace. Got it all done. We got the Kevlar pull on there, okay? I sprayed it. This one is called Holiday Red. It's Design Master Floral Paint. You know, it almost looks like tissue, even though all the flying surfaces are Mylar. I think it looks pretty good, actually. I was pretty happy with the way that came out. Okay, so we got the RC in there, and I'll show you that. So here's the rudder, and there you go. Okay, so again, I think it's enough to keep it in the field. It's a smaller thing compared to what I've been doing lately, but hopefully that should be okay. All right, we'll find out when we get flying. All right, so I'm looking forward to it. Looks like a fun plane. Here's my old one, a little 20-inch job. Now this flew fantastic, so I have high hopes that this also will as well, but you know, we'll find out. It's a really nice build. I really like the looks of this plane, and I also like, you know, I was worried about sawing the nose block there because that really makes the appearance of the plane, but I think it came out okay. I think it looks all right. All right, so we're gonna get out to the field and do some flying. Very nice. Beautiful. All right.
Awesome.
Not bad.
Awesome.
Just a test flight.
That was awesome.
All right, we got about 220 hand winds here. Uh-oh, we don't have any RC on, oh no. Come on. Oh, we're running out of field. It's up. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. It's very light. It wouldn't do anything.